Hello everybody, my name is Aiden and welcome back to another video. Ladies and gentlemen, I've heard from at least 3 people in my comment section saying that it might not be a bad thing keeping Zach LaVine around at least until the trade deadline. And I'm going to kind of talk about that in this video, just discuss my overall thoughts about whether or not it is really a bad thing or not to keep around Zach LaVine. Now, I have made these types of videos before, but look, obviously new arguments have come into place, and I want to talk about those arguments. I want to talk about whether or not Zach LaVine would be good to keep around until the trade deadline, the bads, the goods, the uglies, and even some of the unfortunate circumstances that we may have to deal with when it comes to keeping around Zach LaVine, even keeping around Nikola Vucevic as well. But before we get any further, if you liked the video and you want to see more from me, drop a like, drop a follow, and or subscribe if you are new, and let me know in the comments below your thoughts about keeping around Zach LaVine. Do you think it's a good or a bad idea? Now, this is kind of in response to a couple of people who were saying it in my comment section. I know the vast majority of people will not feel this way and do believe Zach LaVine needs to go before the season's beginnings. And that's kind of where I am at the moment. But I want to play devil's advocate. I want to try and have a fair assessment of this situation, because the first unfortunate circumstance we may face is that Zach LaVine could still be around by the time the season begins. It's a possibility. Is it a possibility that people may like? I think at this stage, probably not. I think people have grown very frustrated with the current situation with Zach LaVine. Obviously, Zach LaVine wanting to leave doesn't help either. It just seems to be an insult to injury type of situation. And this is coming from someone that really does like Zach LaVine, thinks he's a terrific player, and hopefully he could go on to his new team and really start to compete. Because the Bulls, I don't think at the moment, is a place where Zach LaVine can truly thrive in at this point in time. Maybe individually he can thrive, but not in a team perspective. I don't think we are good enough to give Zach LaVine a chance to compete for anything special. And at his stage of his career, I think that is where he needs to be at the moment. That is as simple as it gets in many ways. But here are some of the arguments that could be, I guess, positive. And again, these are some of the things in my comment section what people were saying. Obviously, we have a lot of young guys in this team. You know, we still got the likes of Kobe and Io and Patrick Williams. Obviously, Mateus Bazelis, who's been thriving in the Summer League. Another young guy. Guys like Adama Sanogo, Julian Phillips, Dale and Terry. The list goes on. We're a very young team at this point in time. Even the likes of Josh Giddey is considered a young player. What, is it Josh Giddey, like 21 years old? So, again, there's a lot of youngsters on this team. So you do need a little bit of that veteran experience. And Zach LaVine is a veteran. Zach LaVine is in his prime. Zach LaVine is someone that can help teach the young guys a thing or two about the professional game and how to reach potential levels, all-star levels and stuff of that nature. Nikola Vucevic is a former all-star and can do the same for you. So that's a big reason as to why we keep Zach LaVine. Another big positive as to why we could keep Zach LaVine is the fact that his trade value is so low now. Keeping him around and giving him that chance to play for the Bulls will also give him a chance to improve his trade, I guess, value and stuff of that nature. That's kind of the key thing here for Zach LaVine mainly. I think Vucevic, unless Vucevic absolutely balls out next season, I think his trade value is going to be pretty much the same. But Zach LaVine, there is a chance that he could raise his trade value if he can A, have a healthy season for the Bulls, and B, perform at an elite level for the Bulls. So those are two things to keep in mind if you're going to be keeping around Zach LaVine. But those are the two big arguments right there as to, for some people, to keep Zach LaVine around, or it's not the worst thing in the world to keep Zach LaVine around. And look, I understand those opinions, I do, but unfortunately, I think there's more to this than just saying Zach LaVine can be kept around for the young guys, or that Zach LaVine can improve his trade value. I think there's more to this that meets the eye. And obviously for locker room situations as well, there is more to this that meets the eye. So, I want to quickly go into the idea of keeping Zach LaVine around for the young guys. Of course, this is a possibility. Of course, this wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. But we cannot forget Zach LaVine is on a max contract. And unfortunately, Zach LaVine's role is not to be a mentor to the young guys at this point in time. Now, When you're someone, for example, like DeMar DeRozan, and you're that good, but you also have experience in the NBA, you gradually just become the mentor because you are the leader of the group in many ways. Yes, Zach LaVine could be the leader of this group if he decides to come back for the Bulls, but Zach LaVine is being paid a lot of money. And if you're going to give someone a max contract, the expectation is that he will win with you now or win with you in the future. And I will ask the question now, do you see the Bulls keeping Zach LaVine to win now? That's the first question. Right now, we don't have the team, in my opinion, to compete for championships. So instantly, that is a question that is ruled out. And then, can you see Zach LaVine helping you win in the future? Maybe. But by the time the Bulls can be ready to compete, Zach LaVine will already probably be at the end of his contract, having to get another contract by the Bulls, or he'll be out of his prime. And in my opinion, it's just not the right time frame. And we shouldn't be giving anybody a max contract or paying someone their max contract just to be a mentor. There are many mentors around the league when it comes to veterans. There are many, for example, Taj Gibson recently signed with the Charlotte Hornets. He's a former Chicago Bull. He's been playing with some of the best players in the league. He's a well-known professional, and he could be someone that you could have looked at if you're looking for mentorship and veteran experience. You don't necessarily need an all-star level player to provide you experience. There are many, many, many ways that you can get experience. And I just feel like at this stage of his career, Zach LaVine shouldn't just be here for a mentorship role. I think it's too early in his career to do that, and he's getting paid to win games. So far, we don't have the team that can help him win a game, or win games consistently at least, and in the future, he doesn't fit our timeline at the moment whatsoever. So, those are instantly disputes when it comes to Zach LaVine, I guess, staying around in Chicago. Obviously, the second thing I want to talk about when it comes to potentially upgrading his trade value, I think trade value-wise, there is always a chance that he can improve his trade value. If he comes out next season and balls out for the Bulls, of course, his trade value will increase. But I think Zach LaVine has enough body of work for the past 3, 4, 5 seasons with the Bulls for his value to be known to the NBA. So yes, he can improve his trade value. I would question if he could raise it drastically. I feel like it will just depend. It will just depend on how good of a season he can have. If he is having an all-star caliber season for the Bulls, then I do feel like there is a team that would be willing to give him a chance. But I don't necessarily think a drastic increase is in the making for the Bulls as well. And the third thing I wanted to bring into the equation, right? Because we're talking about mentorship, we're talking about improving the trade value, and maybe him being a locker room leader. Look, I think Zach LaVine will be professional if he stays here. I don't think he's going to be throwing his toys out of the pram, complaining each and every way about being a Chicago Bull. I know his agent might, but I don't think Zach LaVine himself would be doing that, at least in public, right? But you have to address the locker room side of things. And how disgruntled Zach LaVine may be will affect the locker room. And you do not want a locker room that has a little bit of hostility towards each other. Having a player that doesn't want to be there, and not to mention a lot of players in that locker room, like Kobe, Io, Pat, and everybody else that wants to be here, at least that's what we know of at the moment, looking at a player like Zach LaVine who is in the locker room and doesn't want to be there. That could create some hostility, whether it's known or unknown. That is a problem, in my opinion. Which is why mentorship, in my opinion, may not work, because we don't know Zach LaVine's mindset. We don't know how he's going to come into a locker room. We do not know if Zach LaVine is going to care enough to be a mentor role if he's to stay here. I'm not saying he can't, because I think that's just idiotic. I don't know Zach LaVine. I don't know him. Personally, I just don't. And at the end of the day, he could come in and be the best mentor. He could be the best locker room guy you have ever seen. That's up to the Bulls players and the coaching staff and the Bulls organization to decide. But you have to make the argument, at least for now, that there is a conversation that he could be affecting the locker room and I guess the morale of the locker room if he doesn't want to be here in the first place. That can have a lingering effect. Jimmy Butler is an example of this in Minnesota. I think he wanted out of Minnesota. He came in, created a big fuss, and beat the best team that they had with third-string guys. You don't want that type of situation with Zach LaVine, that's for sure. So, ultimately, there is still a lot of conversation there. Is it the worst thing to keep Zach LaVine? unfortunately, we may not have a choice. I don't think it's the worst thing in the world, but I would make the argument it is best to trade him now so everybody could be happy with this move in the future. That's what I believe. So we'll wait and see. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Stay safe, stay healthy, and stay tuned for more. Take care, and peace.